Hello everyone, welcome to this video webinar on competition. My name is Dr. Justine Chinoperekweyi. Yes, you can pronounce Chinoperekweyi. It is my pleasure to welcome you to this module on competition, which module we are offering as a combined class for first year, second year, and third year students during this semester. And this course is dedicated to the analysis of the process of competition. And in our previous session, one of the learners indicated that competition is everywhere. And for businesses to be effective, to be sustainable, they need to understand the nature of competition, the models, functions, and practices of competition. And as such, this course will take a process perspective to competition, because we believe that competition is intrinsically and dynamic, and it is a complex phenomenon. We need to understand the drivers of competition. We need to clearly understand the models, functions, and practices of competition. And in this course, we try to build that intelligence, competitive intelligence, as students or learners who are undertaking courses in hotel and restaurant management, and others are into human resource management and the different fields that you are taking. It is important to employ competitive intelligence to support decision making, management, and to build and sustain competitive advantage. But how do we get firms to be competitive? How do we get firms to be sustainable? This is the focus of this particular module. And in the next 14 sessions that we will have as classroom discussions, we want to become conversant in competitive intelligence, strategic and organization terms and concepts that support competitive advantage in organizations. We also want to build and develop more in-depth knowledge about this particular subject and how competition can either be a hindrance or an enabler to the success of organizations. And we have objectives or learning outcomes that we need to achieve at the end of these 14 sessions. The learner should build or gain familiarity with the meaning and nature of competition, the legal frameworks guiding competitive practices across different sectors, across different jurisdictions, the increasing need for intelligence-related responsibilities in organizations, and the competitive intelligence models, practices, and functions that exist for organizations to use. So the course will cover the following topics: understanding competition and competitive intelligence, the intelligence process, that is the purpose, functions, and applications, introduction to market structures, where we'll look at oligopoly, monopoly, and monopolistic competition as the different market systems that exist, and how firms can manage to maneuver and become sustainable in such market systems. We will also look at capabilities and industry analysis, where we need to enhance organizations' capabilities for them to survive in the industry and the entire market in which they will be operating. We'll also unpack first mover advantage and sustainability, capacity competition, price competition, and also the issue of competition and financial condition, the scope of the firm, innovation and technology, competition policy, antitrust, and dominant position, and also the non-profit setting with respect to the nature of competition in the non-profit organizations. So this is the course, and we have to enter into discussions and conversations, candid conversations that will ensure that we gain knowledge, we build skills, and we be able to apply what we learn to ourselves and to our various professional pursuits. And here is a quote that I got which says, competition is central to the operation of markets and fosters innovation, productivity, and growth, all of which create wealth and reduce poverty. Hence, we find it fit to discuss this particular module as a core module in your different courses. And we need to understand the development and the transition for us to reach to competitive or the theory of competition. First, or the foundation, is the theory of the firm, which is a collection of theory or theories which are trained to explain the behavior of firms under market conditions. And we discussed in our previous sessions that firms pursue profit maximization and wealth maximization. And to achieve the profit maximization and wealth maximization, organizations have to behave in a certain way. And we can analyze the behavior of firms in relation to the inputs that they use. What are its inputs? We also look at the production techniques that are employed by the firm, the quantity that it produces, and the prices that an organization will charge. And this is what the theory of the firm looks at. And it's only focusing on ensuring that the firm or the organization achieves the profit maximization objective. And after the organization has determined its inputs, production techniques, the quantity that it wants to produce, the prices that it wants to charge, it has to exist within a broader market. And it is in this market that the competitive environment takes effect and strategic considerations have to be considered. And it is at this point that there is a shift from the theory of the firm to the theory of competition. And the theory of competition, as I indicated, we're going to take a process perspective. Why? Because it is a complex and dynamic process. And we need to understand the difference between the theory of the firm and the theory of competition can be analyzed at two levels. The theory of competition focuses on the interaction between firms in an industry. How do firms behave and how do they interact in a particular industry? And the theory of the firm focuses on the individual firm. So you start from an individual firm and transition to the industry that the organization will be operating in. And we need to be able to define what is competition. And in our previous session, we defined competition based on 6 different concepts. Concept number 1 is that competition is a process. Competition is a process, looks at competition as an intrinsically dynamic and complex phenomenon. It means there are a lot that is involved. for a firm to be competitive. And we also have competition as a state of affairs, which deals with the study of an equilibrium or equilibrium system within a particular industry or at firm level. So when we are defining competition, we can define competition as a process, or we can define competition as state of affairs. Or we can also define competition as rivalry, which is the most common definition or concept of competition. Rivalry, war between organizations to exist, to survive in a particular market. Or competition as the absence of barriers to entry and exit. We also have competition as a selection of mechanisms, techniques, methods to survive in a particular industry. And competition can also be looked at in terms of price-taking behavior. And these concepts, we need to be able to elaborate on them and demonstrate our understanding of the field of competition in that respect. And competition, there are these temporal aspects of competition. The first one being learning. Organizations have to learn, and the subject of organizational learning is important for an organization to be sustainable and to continue in existence. And this requires a process perspective. This also requires looking at the entry and exit barriers and the mechanisms that organizations can take and the state of affairs. How can we maintain that equilibrium position? And for a firm to be competitive, you also have to look at discovery and selection of processes. This takes into consideration the different mechanisms that organizations can adopt for them to be sustainable and to continue in operations. In that respect, we also discussed the levels of competition. Competition can happen at firm level, and when you have established the firm from the perspective of the theory of the firm, we go to the market. And from the market, you have to compete at industry level. Or competition can start from location in Dubai, Jumeirah Lake Towers, through to the region and to country level. Or we can look at competition from firm through to clusters or conglomerates to the level of countries. So we need to be able to explain these different levels of competition in that respect. And we also need to understand the different characteristics of firms. And we used these 4 characteristics, that we have certain firms that are static. These firms are not taking advantage of learning. There is no discovery and selection processes or mechanisms. Then we have certain firms that are able to adapt. Some firms are able to react to the changes in the environment, or some firms can be able to influence the total market. So we need to look at competitive markets and then determine at what stage an organization is. Is it a static firm? Is the firm having an ability to adapt? Does the firm have the ability to react or to influence? All centered on the need to ensure sustainability, profit maximization, and the contribution of the organization to the entire society. So we agreed in our previous session that we will center our assignment based on these 3 questions to enhance our understanding. You select an economy, and based on this economy, you indicate why competition is important. Why do we need competition in Turkmenistan? Why do we need competition in Uzbekistan or in Russia or in UAE or in Zimbabwe? What are the key drivers of competition in the modern economy? We have the issue of globalization, liberalization, and international trade. And what are the major barriers or hindrances to competition in the modern economy with reference to selected countries? So this in a nutshell is the introductory view of this module. Thank you.